Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Hokyoji's Sunday Dharma Talk. We're pleased to see you all, and I'm pleased to introduce today Shodo Spring. Let's see, I've got to find my, there it is. So, Shodo is the Dharma heir of Shohaku Okumura. Her first teacher was Katagiri Roshi. Shodo's practice focuses on our relationship with all sentient beings through an organization called Mountains and Waters Alliance. In 1988, she spent a year at Hokyoji with the trees and hills in daily practice. And in 2013, she walked across the Great Plains in this, I lost that. Oh, yeah, in the Compassionate Earth Walk. She's working on her second book, and we're pleased to have you today, Shodo. Shodo, can you hear us? Hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good. All right.
Are we ready?
Yes, we're ready.
Good morning.
Good morning. We
It
see
says
no.
is unstable, but we won't worry about
We don't see your face.
that. It often says that. That's strange. I see it.
Ah, because
Um,
any can it, oh now we see it. Now I see it.
okay. So I would like to talk about or uchi. I'm planning to teach a class on my little online group and anyone who cares to join us. And so that's where my attention is going these days. I started with Katagiri Roshi's book. I'm beginning to look at Shinshu Roberts' new book called Being Time. I have notes from a Genzaway with Okumura Roshi in 2004. So I'm going to start with his notes and make no attempt at all to actually address the entire thing. I'm going to address perhaps so uji means being time. In ordinary use, it means for the time being. And in Jiji Uzumai, which some of us chanted really often during sesshin in the old days. Dogen gives the foundation that I'd like to start with. It's his only son, who was 31 years old, and it's really beautiful. It's a description. It's a description of impermanence. It's a discussion of the way the universe actually works. And then in Uji, 9 years later, he returned to the subject of the universe works in the language specifically of time. So he wrote it. He wrote Jiji Uzumai. It's part of Bendawa, the Heir of the Way. And he said, for the time being, I wander like a cloud or a weed, and let the wind of the ancient sages be heard. It was, as always, his strong to share the understanding that he had. And he had both deep insight from practice and a considerable study, been raised from early years to do scholastic, which he rejected, and yet he uses it, and it appears. So he was wandering. He basically had no home, and yet he, in case somebody should be looking for the way. That was the time being. So what he said at that time, ancestors and all Buddhas who uphold Buddha Dharma have the true path of unfolding enlightenment, to sit upright practice in the mid receptive samadhi. Those who attained enlightenment in China followed this way. Thus, teachers and disciples intimately transmitted excellent art as the essence of the teaching. Of course, is sort of an advertisement for the wonders of Zazen. When even for a moment you sit upright, pressing the Buddha mudra in the three activities, deeds, words, and thoughts, the world of phenomena becomes the Buddha mudra, and the entire sky turns into light. Even one person sitting for a very short time is part of the great workings, is connected with the working of the great earth and of the whole universe. There is no separation. And we sit down, we place ourselves in the middle of the universe as it actually functions. Nothing is lacking. Completely is lacking. Reality is as it is, without any help. So to sit in this is to teach the Dharma, to the expression Jiju Zamai refers to receiving a self. It's the samadhi of receiving a self. The impermanence, the fearfulness of impermanence is really vivid, and I will read a little more. So in 1240, Do wrote 6 chapters of Shobogenzo, and one of these chapters was Uji. And he begins with a poem. For the time being, I stand astride the highest mountain peaks. For the time being, I move on the deepest depths of the ocean floor. For the time being, I am 3 heads and 8 arms. For the time being, feet or 16 feet. For the time being, I'm a staff or a whip. For the time being, I'm a pillar or a lantern. Being I'm Mr. Chang or Mr. Lee. For the time being, I'm the great earth and heavens. So this inspired by Yao Shan's words in discussion with a governor, it eventually became his student. And the governor was asking questions and was kind of saying, well, no, not that. And then finally he said, if you want to uphold this, meaning this way of practice, you should directly stand on the highest mountain peak, go deepest bottom of the ocean. So the advice for practice is when you stand on a high mountain peak, you look around and you can see everything. You let yourself be awake to everything that's happening. The bottom of the deepest ocean is in the dark very deeply. The ocean allows for no seeing things. In the ocean, you practice without ideas or without discrimination. And to practice truly, you have both of these. It's the duality, the two-ness described in Shokai, where we have difference and we have unity. And so Yaoshan said, okay, if you really want to practice, you embrace both that vastness that we can see, taste, and touch, and you also go to a place where none of that exists at all. You go to the absolute. And then he says, forget everything. Keep the precepts. Sit zazen without ideas, even ideas of. So when Dogen took these words, he added for the time being to them. Now, the time being, uji, word par, u is to be or be having or owning. G is sometimes, certain times, our time, or at one time. So you're taking, just this moment and connecting it with the entire universe. So Dogen added this very, in some ways, simple and perplexing or profound ways to the advice. Highest mountain peaks, the ocean. Take in everything, take in all senses. Take in nothing. Let yourself just walk in the deep, dark place surrounded by the waters. Then Dogen said, for the time being, I'm 8 arms. For the time being, I'm 8 feet or 16 feet. I'm going to skip those. For the time being, I'm a staff or a whip, symbols of the abbot's authority. For the time being, I'm a pillar, a lantern, both of which are parts of the monastery. So he says that human being who carries the teaching and the structure within which the teaching is carried and practiced by all monks, nuns, lay people, by all practitioners. For the time being, I'm Mr. Smith or Mr. Jones. Here, and for the time being, I'm the great earth and heavens above. So all of these, the greatness and this very littleness. Katagiri Roshi, talking about this, said some really beautiful things about impermanence and how instant is. You know, people think of themselves, we all tend to that, and we tend to think that the things around us are solid. And yet, things that are permanent are not alive. And so impermanence is, there is no, there's nothing better about permanence. It's secure, and it's not secure. According to teaching, all beings in the universe appear and disappear in a moment. The impermanence expresses the functioning of moment or the appearance of all beings as a moment. It means that all life is transient, constantly appearing, constantly changing. You are transient, I am transient, Buddha is transient. So that's important. Buddha is transient. We might think of him as permanent, but he lived and died. And then there are these ideas, and nothing is solid. Everything is transient. Wherever you go, transiency follows you. Transiency is a naked nature. Self is if your body and mind were a huge building rising from your round cushion. Open your mind again and again to see what. Now, Katagiri Roshi talks about decorations. As unconsciously, our minds decorate time with many ornaments in order to make our lives more secure and meaningful. We don't want to look at time. We want to think in terms of continuity. I want to say, well, I was this way as a child, this way as a young adult, and this way when I entered this, and now I'm this way at 74, and robe. But really, there are these points, and each of those has an independence, and yet each of them also has a future. And so in this moment, my past includes stories of when I was younger, and my past also includes coming down here and turning this on and zazen together. And my future includes whatever I'm going to say next. But the present is so short, it can't be present. As soon as you look at it, it's gone already. It's moved into the past, and the future is moved away. So it's a little difficult. And he tells the story of Dogen, still young, traveling to China, the great adventure of life, no doubt, to go and walk among temples and monasteries and meet teachers. And while he was on the boat, he met a Tenzo, and he didn't understand him at all. What is the use of working so hard as a Tenzo priest? And he was looking for something solid and real, he was trying to of his life, I think, or Katagiri Roshi thought. And he says, if you become a monk, you ask, what is the purpose of monks? If you become a monk, you ask, what is the purpose of human beings? But no matter how long you try to follow a meaningful purpose in life, impermanence always cuts it off. When you realize this, you really wonder, why do we have to live with effort? Why don't we just live as we like? And Dogen had that question, if we're already we have to do spiritual practice. And so Dogen asked the Tenzo, who was whatever that means, why are you working as a Tenzo? Why don't you study the scriptures? And Katagiri, but just creating ornaments. Since human beings have been born in this world, lots of ornaments in order to make time more meaningful. We develop remarkable civilizations of culture, politics, beauty, and meaning, pleasure. Intellectual disciplines such as history, economics, science, philosophy, psychology, and then we believe that they make life meaningful. We that a spiritual life can help us find meaning. So we is God, Buddha, universal energy, the last judgment, paradise after death, mythology, morality, and ethics. And then we try to develop them to make us feel that life is worth it. But still there is no solution, he says, just ornaments. I'm remembering once, more 35 years ago, probably half a time, I had the good fortune to meet Ivan Illich, who respected deeply. He's a profound teacher in a sense of the world as we know it. And I asked him, what's in your life? And he said, I don't have meaning. Life is to live. That's like, a Zen master could have said that to me, but this famous person said it to me instead. And it's like, oh, life is to live. And then, of course, me what was the meaning in my life? And I was very embarrassed. So, okay, here we go. So Roshi says, Dogen gives you a very hard practice. Keep and look directly at impermanence. This is called Zazen. And this is important. Zazen is not a way to by being mindful of something that is apart from the human world. It is the practice in the real stream of time and looking directly at life itself. Zazen enables you to plunge below the surface and leads you to touch the core. For a while, I taught mindfulness-based stress reduction. I came to that after developing an allergy to incense and kind of having. And so I taught those classes for a few times. Very impatient because I was teaching people how to calm down. This being mindful of something that is apart from the human world. Well, that's not what we were doing, but there was too much about that. Or it was too much like that. And I would say to people sometimes, well, if you're lucky, your headaches will go away and you will get not have to go to the doctor as much and you'll get back your physical. But if you're really lucky, you just won't mind your life. So not minding those things so much is something about my practice. My life is mentioned in the brief introduction. My life has actually been very engaged in the physical and material and human world. Mountaintop and looking around. And I see around me a lot of people who are upset and angry about how things are. And when I look around from the mountaintop, when I turn on the news, it was like, well, people are analyzing how we got into this fix. for solutions, and people are yelling at each other really a lot. And then some cases of practice, I find people trying not to look at it. But we don't spend all our life on the bottom of the. But if we spend all our life at the top of the mountain, we might fall off. We might get blown by the winds. We might get knocked down. We might get upset. So Dogen wrote about continuous practice, and continuous practice is one of the things that Shinshu mentions as connected to Uji. In continuous practice, the world is creating us and we are creating the world. It goes around and around and around. The expression circle way is there, just as described in Jiju Samai, just as described in Uji. We bring ourselves to be fully present with the life that is right. And that life, it includes, politics and weather, rain, leaky roofs. And it includes emotions, desires, impatience, and frustration. Oh, and medical issues. And it includes friendships and relationships, and whether they're feeling good or whether they're not. This world and the practice, I think the practice of Zazen, and we sit down, whether our knees hurt or not, it's a way of being ready for that world. We don't control things, and yet we have to live with them, and we have to join in them and created in a wholesome way. And I want to read. Yes. So the description in Jiju Zamai is God awakening comes back to you and a path opens up to you invisibly. Thus in Zazen you invariably drop away body and mind through fragmented concepts and thoughts from the past and realize essential Buddha. You cultivate Buddha activity at innumerable practice places of everywhere. You provide the opportunity for every ongoing Buddhahood and vigorously uplift the dharma of going beyond Buddha. Because earth, grass, trees, walls, tiles, and pebbles, the phenomena in the 10 directions, all engage in Buddha activity, those of the wind and water are inconceivably helped by the Buddha's transformation, splendid and unthinkable, in best enlightenment. Those who receive these benefits and fire widely engage in circulating the Buddha's transformation, original realization. Because of this, all those who live with you and speak with you also receive immeasurable Buddha virtue. Practice continuously and extensively endless, unremitting, unthinkable, unnameable Buddha Dharma throughout the. And then he says, but you can't see it. You can't see it, but there it is. Everything is bright, shining light. and one moment of zazen permeates through. And I think I'd like to stop there and invite comments and questions. Okay, I'll read one more thing. Oh, good, Shoku. Yes.